was taken by surprise and I thought that it was going to crash. But crazy thing was it went off the road and my car aquaplaned and it rolled over and I was paralyzed in that accident. I thought I was definitely dead. I thought I was dead. I tried to get out of the car. I just realized I was paralyzed. Waking up was the worst thing, Glenn, because when I was asleep, I sometimes dreamt like that I was just wandering around living a normal life. And then you wake up, this is real. This is real. This actually happened. And I'm here and I'm paralyzed. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. And I had enough whys, but I have not been depressed since.
I need to know to get to where I want to go. Good afternoon, Dinesh, and welcome to the Feck It No More podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Glenn. I've been looking forward to it. Finally, we made it happen.
We did make it happen, and I really do appreciate you putting in the effort to make it happen. I know you're a busy man, and I know there's things come up in life and life gets in the road. Dinesh, can I ask you to introduce yourself to our listeners?
That's an interesting question for today because I was reading last night Atomic Habits and he says in the book to never be attached to an identity or to minimize your attachment to an identity. So, I'm just Dinesh. I was reflecting on that last night. I work as a doctor in the emergency department and I trained as a lawyer before medicine and have a spinal cord injury. I was born in Sri Lanka, but that's just a bit of the background.
Yeah, and I think you're being a little bit modest there, Dinesh, to be honest, with your introduction. I've made a couple of notes just in case you were very modest. 2021, Queensland Australian of the Year, one of the founders of Doctors with Disabilities. You've done TED Talks. You have an OAM in 2019, and you're also an author of Stronger. So I do think you're being a little bit modest. You see it that there are things that you've achieved, not who you are. Dinesh, can I ask you to take us back to, I suppose, your early days? You mentioned that you came across from Sri Lanka. When did you move to Australia? You're like myself, you're not originally from here. When did you come across?
Yeah, we moved here in 1994. I was 10 years old. We came here on my 10th birthday, actually. It's when we landed in Australia. It's amazing. I was just wandering from the hospital to the university where I'm chatting with you. And it's a little bit of a wonder, but it's winter and the sun's out.
I know.
Oh gosh, it's paradise. Such a beautiful.
Brisbane is such a lovely part of it. It's very similar to Perth. I came out probably about 18, 19 years ago, and I love Brisbane. I could have stayed in Brisbane very easily. Having brought my own 3 kids out, one was 7, one was kind of just over 10, nearly 11, and one was 14. I know that can be a challenging transition. How did you find it?
It was, I suppose at the age of 10, it's challenging in a way, but also exciting. Especially coming from a place like Sri Lanka to Australia. Sri Lanka is a tiny island with nearly the same amount of people as Australia, but it was also a very humble place in that we didn't have much of the things that we do in Australia growing up. So, it was difficult to leave friends and family behind, but at the same time, it was so exciting. It was exciting to come to this new world and to see this country that really we've only ever seen in movies, places like this. So it was a big transition and it was challenging for many reasons. And I suspect it was probably more challenging for my parents, but it was exciting. It was.
Yeah. I remember our 7-year-old just thinking it was an adventure, and we were telling him we were giving it 2 years to try it and see how it liked, and he just thought it was 2 weeks. He had no concept of time at the time. So it was easy for him, but the older girls, the one at kind of 11 and 14, 15, they definitely struggled moving into new schools and things like that. At the beginning, it was quite challenging. Give us a few early years in Australia then, leading up to your Feck It No More moment. What's life like? What are you doing at that point?
I was just going through the normal teenage stuff. So, and when we came here, then we lived in Sydney for a bit, which I love Sydney as well. It's so beautiful. To me, it's Australia.
Byron Bay, was it?
Yeah, then Byron Bay. So we moved to Byron Bay after that.
Yeah. I stopped there once and my family wasn't there with me. It was whenever I was visiting a few companies out here. It was just such an amazing spot. I remember Byron Bay blowing my mind.
So beautiful. And it was a great place to grow up.
Yeah.
We spent a bit of time there and then moved to Brisbane to finish school. I wasn't a very good student when I was in Byron Bay, because it's just a whole new world. We're coming here and I was exploring all these things and trying all this stuff. And it was a great childhood. But I moved to Brisbane and then just didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. So I decided I was going to be a lawyer. Now I started studying law, but I had depression when I was in law school. I suppose that was almost a pre-Feck It moment.
Yeah. Can I ask where that depression was coming from at the time? Was it what you were studying? Was it life in general? What was going on at that point?
Yeah, I was actually talking to some medical students about it this morning, where that came from. And I think people have asked me whether it was the childhood in Sri Lanka because, you know, we lived during the war there and it was tough, but not really. Like it's incredible what parents can do in hard times, even in a war. I think my parents gave me a really good childhood still. So it wasn't from that, but I think it was rather that I was living this life when I was a law student that I don't think I particularly loved it at the time.
Yeah.
And I feel that when we're not living a life that is aligned with our values and beliefs, and I think it's down a dark road. So I think that's where the depression came from.
No, I get that. And obviously I've made a couple of career changes in my journey. And the last one was I knew I was getting, not just that I was on the wrong alignment, but I was getting further away from where I actually wanted to be, which left it quite challenging. Did you choose law because it was something you thought you were interested in? I know what parents can be like sometimes. Was a parent pushing you that way? I'm interested to know where the law aspect, like from law to doctor, come from.
I think when we don't really know ourselves, and again, I read this in another book somewhere. I felt like it might have been a Eckhart Tolle book or something. But he says that when we don't have a good sense of identity, we try to fill our identity with all these things. And I think I just wanted to have a prestigious job where I had the potential to earn a lot of money. And I think my life was geared towards those things at the time. So that's why I studied law. I think it's a great thing today because these days, I see the power in it to change our society and fight for people. But those days, it was all for the wrong reasons. And I wonder how many of us do that in life. We chase after something just because we think it'll make us rich or we just don't know ourselves.
I think that not knowing ourselves really kind of sticks out to me because I look back at my younger years. I struggled at school. I was dyslexic. I told myself I had this negative internal story telling myself I'd never really go on to achieve anything, and I'd always be just using my hands. And I went to serve time as a bricklayer and things like that. So I seen it from probably the other side of the scale where I was putting that limitation on potentially what I could or could not achieve before even thinking about what I am capable or how you could go on to do things. So I totally get that not knowing yourself aspect of things or not seeing the potential in yourself. Obviously, depression is something that's quite close to my story. I've seen my father struggle with depression and alcohol for quite some time. And I have had a cousin commit suicide and an auntie commit suicide. So depression is something that has always been around my family. And from the age of about 30, I became very conscious that our mind was a very powerful thing, either negatively or positively. And I suppose that's maybe even a bit of the background in this. Can you tell us a little bit about what that depression looked like for you and how it was impacting you at the time?
The comparison that I often use, I have a spinal cord injury now, and I've been paralyzed from it since 2010. Well, I have had a full life. I love life. You know, like I was just wandering through today and just admiring what a beautiful day it is. And I just love like even the taste of food I enjoy. But there's so much to love about life. And it's just such a good experience. Like I love living. And I've had the opportunity to do a lot after the spinal cord injury, like some of the things you said about at the start. So I'm physically paralyzed now, but have a very happy and fulfilled life. But when I had depression, I found it hard to even leave the house. And every day was dark and grey and I was anxious all the time. And it's a funny thing, depression, because there is just this pervasive sense of unhappiness and so hard to explain like it's consuming and it's difficult to climb out of that. But I think the other frustrating thing is from outside perspective, I was talking to a friend of mine about this a few years ago and he said, when you have someone with depression that you know in your life, it's not going to get fixed overnight. So you have to keep turning up for them every day like a marathon. Yeah. And I think for people that are around, it can be frustrating and exhausting. Yeah. So That's what it was like. And I remember friends getting frustrated with me. I remember family not understanding what was happening. It's such a weird experience, depression.
I'm guessing you late teens, early 20s at that point.
Yeah.
Dinesh, I'm guessing. Which is a hard stage for people anyway in life, not knowing what comes next and trying to struggle through. I think that's a challenging age for most people at that point. Did it last for long? You called it nearly a pre-Feck It No More moment. And in reality, most people have 1, 2, 3 or 4, so I'm happy to go all in and call it a Feck It No More moment. But did that period last long in your life?
I would say that would have gone on for 2 or 3 years, probably, from memory. So it wasn't something that went away quickly. And I was looking at a photo. So I remember my girlfriend at the time. We're still friends. We still talk. There's this photo of me with her at a bar or something, and we're sitting on this couch. I just had this blank look on my face, and it was that time when I was depressed.
Yeah.
And I just look at myself now, like these days, if I'm in a photo, like I smile or whatever, but that particular photo, I just remember the point in time when I was depressed, and it's just like, I remember what was behind that face. It's just such a weird thing to look at.
You can remember the feeling at that point. Yeah. The emotions, you know the body and the mind probably better than most people, but that body-mind connection where we store them emotions and it only takes some little thing to trigger them can be quite powerful in the body. So it's lasts for a couple of years at that point. The Feck It No More moment that might have been related to that, how do you kind of transition out of that moment, or does that lead into the rest of the story? Like what would that look like for you?
I think reading is so important, right? So I'm going to reference another book, which is called The Obstacle is the Way.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't read that one yet.
And there's this parable that they speak about in this book, and it's something along the lines of, I may not have got this quite right, but there was a king in the old times, and there's a single road heading into the town. So the king put this big boulder on that road, but it hid a treasure underneath it. And so people were trying to get in and out of the town. Some were getting frustrated. Some were turning around. Some were trying to go around it. And I think eventually someone moved the rock and found the treasure underneath. And so the whole idea is that we face obstacles in our life, and if we're willing to actually face it and look into it, there might be a treasure. And for me, depression was one of those treasures. In that I started to see a doctor when I had it, and he was the inspiration for me coming to medicine, because I realized the power that he had in how he healed me and to change my world. And like, if we actually think about it today, like I'm a happy person. Those days I wasn't. So imagine transforming someone's life like that. Yeah.
And playing a role in their positive future instead of a negative future. It is a very powerful concept, and it can be, everybody has the ability to do that regardless of what role we are. I work with a lot of leaders in my day-to-day job, and once you explain that you're not just there to make sure people are doing the things right, that you're there to make a positive impact on their life, they start seeing the potential then rather than just the thing. The turnaround from the depression and the influence that doctor had on you, you've just said it was quite powerful. I'm guessing he's provided tools at that point that you were able to carry into the rest of your life, was it? Or was it just discussions that he was having with you?
There's a saying that people may not remember what you do for them, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And that doctor was such a person. I actually don't really remember the things that he did. I remember that he treated me with respect and kindness, and he took the time to listen. And to understand. So I think those were the things that I remember about that experience. And it wasn't quick. It took a year or two. Like, took time, took months for that to recover. But I think it was more about that. And isn't that the most important thing about humanity? Like we're especially these days, like I find that we're becoming so transactional towards each other, but yet social connection is in a crisis. We're not socially.
Everybody.
Yeah. So I think there's something to be said about that, to revive social connection and to think a little bit more about how we make each other feel.
Yeah, I agree. I was chatting to a guest the other night, and she had said that, she had referred one of the books where the nurse had been working in palliative care, and she was asking people, just as they were having their last few moments, what do they wish they had have been able to do different or change different or achieve in life. And it came down to pretty much connection with other people and experiences that they had. It wasn't the things that they had attained. It wasn't anything, the houses or the boats or the cars or anything like that. It was very much the connections and the relationships and the memories that stood out in them last few moments. And I thought, I'd heard that before and I'd heard the concept, but it is so true. It's, as you said, society, we have got so many tools now that we can be more socially connected. Like we're doing this from halfway across the country. Yet there's also so much noise in our society today, which is chasing and trying to grab our attention between work and advertisement and everything else. There's a lot of distractions out there at the moment as well, which I think we get caught up in, and everybody's guilty of it. You come out of the depression about 18 months. Can you remember why you chose to go and see that doctor? Because I think it's important for anybody that might just be listening to this little part and going, do you know what? Okay, I feel similar. Can you remember what prompted you to go and look into it?
Yeah, but again, Glenn, like I didn't know what was happening to me, right? So it's like I was having a lot of physical sensation, like, I was having heart attacks or, like.
So there was a lot of physical stuff going on and it wasn't drawn straight to the depression side of it.
Yeah, because with the anxiety and you're anxious and you're not feeling right. Like it's really, so I even thought like maybe there's physical stuff going on sometimes, but there wasn't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
For me, anybody that's out there and that is listening and is feeling off and has them symptoms of anxiety or feels like something's, not quite right, being able to speak up about it and talk about it is usually the first step. Fast forwarding then on to closer to your Feck It No More moment. What's happening in your life at that point?
It's a good life. I really think the magic is when we find that thing that we love and want to do. That's probably the trick for all of us, is to find that. So life was really good. Like I was with a medical student last night. I got the opportunity to do mentor, and she was saying, I love this. Like she was, she came from another career. So she sat the exams and going into medical school. And she's like, I don't have as much money now as a student, but I'm so happy. I love what I'm doing and every day is exciting and I get to live here. And that was me. I was like, that's, I mean, that's still me, but I just remember that feeling. So that was me. I was like on top of the world. Life was good. Everything was going well. That was where I was before the Feck It moment.
Tell us about the Feck It moment. What happened at that point?
Life was ticking along. Like everything had changed by that point. I was loving life. I would have been 25. 25, yes. And I was visiting my mom in Brisbane, which is about an hour from Gold Coast where I lived, maybe over an hour. And then I was driving back. It was about 8:30 p.m. It was summer when it had rained throughout the day intermittently. And there was a puddle of water on the side of the road that my car ran over. And my car aquaplaned and it rolled over. And I was paralyzed in that accident. It was wild, like, because I was driving along perfectly normally. And once my car hit this water puddle, it just started spinning. So it was just spinning around on the road, and it was on the highway. It was pretty fast. It happened suddenly. I was taken by surprise and I thought that it was going to crash. But crazy thing was it went off the road up this little hill and it came back down and the front of the car hit the road and then it started flipping through the air front to back. Yeah. So super violent, super scary. I thought I was definitely dead. I thought I was dead. But when the car landed, it landed upright on the side of the road. And then I tried to get out of the car. I just realized I was paralyzed. Couldn't move.
So you knew straight away that you just nothing was working. Yeah. That must be a terrifying feeling sitting there in that car. Did you say it's late at night as well?
Yeah, I've never been able to describe what it felt like. We think that when the car was flipping, my neck would have hit the roof and snapped forward. And that would have just broken my neck. So I knew what had happened. I knew what this meant. Like I was far enough into medical school to understand that. Yeah. This was spinal cord injury. There's no cure for it. And that was that I was paralyzed. Like it is shocking, you know. It's man to just be cruising along life at 25 and then without warning to be paralyzed is shocking.
I can only imagine. For you at that time, it's even worse because, as you say, you've got the medical experience. You're there, you know already. Average person, maybe it's happening, they're not sure what's going on, they're there, but they've maybe got hope for that. But it sounds like very much you knew straight away that this was going to change your life dramatically. What does the recovery look like? How long does it take them long getting you out of the car? How long you in the hospital? What does that part look like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a chaotic environment because first of all, there was a guy that pulled over and then someone else called the triple O. I actually got the call on an audio file. I'll send it to you. But someone called triple O and this guy was holding my head until the help arrived. And we're friends now. We hang out, we chat. But he said he had a lot of blood on him that night. Yeah. This poor dude, I think it gives him more nightmares than me. I don't actually have any, but he's told me that sometimes he remembers. The crazy thing was the fire truck came and they also lost control in that.
In this area.
Yeah. All right. Fortunately, they didn't crash. And then they cut me out of the car, ambulance. We go to the hospital and I was operated on that night. I was a patient in the hospital for 7 or 8 months, a long time.
There's a long time.
Yeah, initially I was in the intensive care unit, asleep for a couple of days, ventilated. So it was a very slow, painful road.
I can only imagine. What are you thinking in them 7 months? What's like, I was going to say, is there any highs in that 7 months? But I'm guessing there's not. It's quite a hard experience to have to live through and to be in hospital till not have your world go from able to be up and about and do things and becoming a medical student to now being stuck in a hospital. Like, what's going through your mind at that point?
Most days were hard. And I think the most horrifying days were when I was in the intensive care unit. Because I just remember waking up. Waking up was the worst thing, Glenn, because when I was asleep, I sometimes dreamt like that I was just wandering around living a normal life. And then you wake up, this is real. This is real. This actually happened. And I'm here and I'm paralyzed and I've got tubes going all over me. And that was the worst. Like that was the worst. Just waking up and realizing that it's not a dream. Waking up and realizing, actually, this is the nightmare I'm waking up to. And being asleep was the
dream.
Yeah, and I remember sometimes asking them to just put me to sleep for a bit, like, because I even couldn't sleep. I was thinking so much about it. Some days I'm just like, just give me something to sleep for a while.
So there was no escape from it. You were just constantly thinking about, and I'm guessing it's not good thoughts at that point.
No, because I couldn't even feel my body. It's just so. Yeah, and nights were bad because everyone left. My mom left, friends left, and you're alone at night, and all you can see is the glow of the computer screen on the nurse's face, and the nurses, they're doing their thing, and you're just staring at the ceiling, going, "Fuck out this." But I also remember there was this one day, like many months later, when the hospital let me go home for a night or two. This was like 6 or 7 months into it, and I remember I was really scared to go home because. Yeah. But I was laying on the bed one day and then, it just hits you sometimes. You're just like, far out. This is where I graduated from high school in this home. And this is where I, went to university and now I'm paralyzed on this bed. And this is an irreversible thing. Like, oh, man. So it was those moments that were the toughest and most horrifying.
Really, really quick. We need your help to reach more people. We are finding the guests. People are coming on to share their story, and we need to get their message out to people who may be currently in that moment and needing to hear it. And I can't do that without you. Please hit that follow or subscribe button. The like button or the love button really helps us out. Most powerful is to leave a comment to say that you've either enjoyed the show, what you've taken away from it, what stood out for you, how it relates to your life, what you think other people would be able to get from this show. Things like that really do help us grow and make meaningful impact to other people's lives. I'll let you get back to the show. Yeah, I can only imagine, Dinesh. Your recovery from that, and recovery I'm using very lightly here because obviously, you have to go through the process of even learning to sit in a chair. What does the rehab look at that point?
You got to learn how to do the simple stuff again after a spinal cord injury. My fingers have been affected. So you got to figure out how to hold things, how to even use things like a mobile phone again, how to write, how to eat, how to do all these things. How do you get out of the bed, shower? So it's actually like learning to live life with paralysis.
Again.
How do you use the wheelchair? How do you get in and out of a car? So it was all those things, and it took a long time to figure out that stuff.
Yeah.
So rehab was a lot of that, and then also just building up the foundational strength in the body to be able to do those things, and to medically recover as well. There was a lot of medical problems along the way, unstable. So there's a bit, and that's why it takes so long with spinal cord injuries.
Yeah. The Feck It No More moment that you have, what does that look like? Where does that come?
I mean, from the start, I suppose. Because again, another book, A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He says, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." And I had enough whys to continue. I wanted to continue to become a doctor. I wanted to be with my family again. But there were enough whys, and I loved life enough. And so all those whys kept me going. And from the moment this happened, from the moment I broke my neck, like I was always thinking about how I would get back to these things and how because that why was strong.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? For all of us in this world, purpose is so important.
No, as a coach, I use whys as quite a lot. For me, once we have a why we should do something, then it's just a case of how do I do it? What's the gap in between? Why I can relate with a lot. And, that wasn't always the way. That was something I learned, something I kind of came across whenever I was searching how to become more. Your whys seemed like they were very strong. You were very passionate about finishing and becoming a doctor. Whenever you have that accident at that time, already that you've got the problem. Already it's shit and it's going to be terrible. Is them whys already starting to creep in at that point? Is it weeks later? Is it months later? What's it look like?
Seconds. I remember talking to the doctor in the ambulance about it. Like I was like, how am I going to get back to medical school? Was like I thought about it within seconds because I think when you have those reasons, you just tend to cling on to life a bit more from the outset.
It sounds like even just before the accident, your mindset was in a very good, strong place.
Yeah. And that came from the depression. I think it was really helpful for me. So
I was just going to say that.
And even though the spinal cord injury has been hard, like the things that I talked about were hard. They were difficult. They were challenging. They were horrifying. They were scary. But I have not been depressed since. I think there's a difference between hardship and depression. Depression is hard, but hardship isn't necessarily depressing. So I think it was hard, but I haven't been depressed since that.
No, that's really good because I suppose that was one of my questions. Was there ever an opportunity where you slid back into that depression? I had this discussion one time before with my wife and kids, and I suppose I've worked very hard on my mindset because of what I'd seen in my family. I'd worked very hard on my mindset from about 30. And endurance sports definitely help with that, putting myself in hard, difficult positions. But I do believe that life is going to throw shit at us all. There's going to be hard times in everybody's life. It's designed that way. We're all gonna lose loved ones. We're all gonna die. We're all, there's gonna be hard times come at us. But I had this theory that the more mentally strong I can become, the more I'm able to face them hard times. It sounds like very much your mental strength at that stage was the thing that was able to, straight away, you didn't allow yourself for weeks or months to feel, for me, this happened. It was a case of, I still have a life to lead. I still want to achieve things. I still have them whys. Did you realize that at the time that was going to be the difference, that you had two choices at that point? You could feel like the victim and the poor me and the shit, this has happened to me? Or were you very conscious of them two options that you had at that stage?
Well, I think for me, I never felt I understood that bad things happen to people. And having grown up in Sri Lanka, I've seen that with my own two eyes.
Yeah.
So when this happened, I never thought, why me? I thought, man, bad things happen to people. And there are people that worse things have happened to, right? And something you just said, like, I'd much rather this happen than lose a loved one.
Yeah, very true.
So worse things happen to people, I think. And so I don't necessarily think like, you know, I'm unique in that, like, why did this happen to me? Did this happen to me? Or sometimes even think, did this happen for me? Because people always ask me, like, what do you think it would have been like had this not happened? Yeah. And I wonder, Glenn, like, I wonder if I would have been like, I don't know, would I have been a dick?
Could you have been unhappy?
Yeah, would I have been unhappy? Oh, maybe I'm a dick. I don't know, but I hope not. But
well, I don't know you well enough to go to that one.
But who knows who I would have become, and hopefully I've become a better person because of it. And certainly, when this first happened, in the weeks and months that followed, I would have done anything to have my old life back. But today, like, I'm here chatting with you, and it's been 16 years and I have a great life. So today it's a lot more forward looking than that.
Yeah. It's interesting because you're the 30th guest I've spoke to on the Feck It No More show. And every one of them has had different turning points in their life from where they were to where they are. And some of them has had really hard times. You know, yourself, you've got the injury. Other people have ended up in prison. Other people have destroyed their lives with drugs. But pretty much every one of them has said they wouldn't change the hard time that they've went through because it's made them the person they are today. And I think there's something really powerful in that for people that are currently maybe going through a hard time or struggling with an aspect of life, to know that if they can get through this and become who they can become, that life can be good. You said, you know, you're maybe not unique in choosing to look at the positive aspect of this and look forward. But I do think that there's a lot of people that don't realize that there is the choice, that I can choose to look at the why and keep moving forward. Now, I know the next step of your journey to continue and achieve the whys that you had in place was also quite difficult for you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I love being a doctor. I think it is so close to my heart for so many reasons. It's been one of the greatest privileges of my life to be doing this. So I didn't want to let go of that. But when I was trying to come back to medical school, there was a lot of doubt whether I could do it. And even some of my closest friends said, dude, I don't know if it's worth it taking this risk. And I don't know if, like, how do you know what will happen and whether you'll succeed? And I think some people said it out of love. In our lives, people, I think, will have all sorts of opinions about what we shouldn't do and shouldn't do. Some of it is out of love and some of it is out of whatever else. But I have come to realize that one day we will have our last moments. And on that day, very few of these people will be around. Very few of these people will matter. Most of these people will have been forgotten, and they would have forgotten you. And how is it that we give power to that?
To other people.
Have a regret. A guy rang me last night, actually. He was like, for years, he's been talking to me about studying and trying to get into medical school. And I just said, man, like, do you want to carry that regret with you for the rest of your life? Like, we get one shot. Someone once told me that this is not a dress rehearsal. It's happening now. Time goes on, and one of the things that gives me a great deal of peace, Glenn, is that I have no regrets about life. I feel like I've loved that girl. I've kissed her. I've done things. I've tried things. I've learned things. I have no regrets about any of it. I think we have to live every day as if it were our last, and
because it might be.
It might be. It might be.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to say, I tried, but I failed, and that's okay. I think to say, I wish I tried, that's a different.
I remember coming across a quote whenever I was thinking about doing my first marathon. I was a couch potato at that stage, going down a really unhealthy route. And my oldest girl, Amy, and she says, Daddy, you'll die if you ever try to do that. I remember doing the research. I came across this quote, and It's something that has shaped my life after it. It was, there'll be 1,000 reasons why we shouldn't do anything, but you only need one reason why, and find that reason. Your journey to become a doctor is still quite a tough one, because as you said, you've got people telling you that maybe you're not going to be fit to do it. How long does it take you getting back into the medical? Like, what is it? Do you just go back? Were you like a second year or something at that stage? Like,
I was halfway.
How challenging?
Yeah. I was halfway through when the accident happened. And I spent 7-8 months in the hospital, and a further 3 years before I came back.
Yeah.
So those 3 years were, I was in the hospital a few times again with complications. I spent a little while just figuring out life, like even going outside again. And stabilizing things with mum. Like my dad left, so there was a few things that we just figured out. So it took 4 years in total between the accident and coming back to medical school. And I think I was lucky enough to have good people that fought enough for me to give me a chance. That's all I wanted. I just wanted a shot. Like I did.
Of course.
I didn't, I just wanted a shot, and I wanted to give it my best and take it one day at a time. And I got that chance. So we had some conversations like, do we pick up where we left off? Do I go back a year and start again? And said, look, just give me a chance to pick up where I left off. And if I failed, then it's fine. I'll go back a year and start again. So I pick up where I left off, busted my butt. And I, again, talking to that student, got me thinking, because there is this simplicity about life when you're just pursuing a singular goal. And those days were hard. I used to wake up with my mom at like 3 or 4 a.m. She used to help me get ready, dressed. We'd go down to the tram. I'd get to the hospital, then finish. And then I'd go to the library, and then I'd study till about midnight, 11, 12, and then go home, sleep for a few hours and do it all again. So it was hard, but it's kind of beautiful in a way, because it was so simple, and it was, it was, maybe it is true what they say. It's more about the journey than the destination, because the destination, the celebration, it lasted a few days, but that journey, like I kind of miss that.
Yeah, I get that. And I've spoke before about sometimes in life I was very much one of them people that just set the next target, and didn't take time to enjoy the journey. That's like really until my friend told me at 47 he had 6 months to live, and I realized, okay, life's too short, that I then had to start living more in the moment, if that makes sense, than thinking about what comes next. And I think as people, sometimes we can be guilty of looking for what's next, and not appreciating the here and now and present. I've obviously done a lot of work on that over the last 7-8 years on myself and with other people I work with. But there's something really powerful about being in the moment and enjoying life. And it sounds like that's something you have mastered fairly well, Dinesh.
Yeah, it took a while because, like you said, sometimes we're just chasing the next thing all the time, Holly. But I think that sometimes potentially also comes with being bored or unfulfilled. Like next thing, I just got to take this moment in and enjoy everything that we've got. This moment may be the last. And the why. Why do we do what we do? Like the why is so important. I think it's what separates us too from animals, because they just do the what. And for us, we can have a why. And it's the why that has brought this world to where we are. And if we can find that why, I think life just becomes all the more precious and we squeeze it all the more better.
Yeah, I totally agree. Dinesh, I could talk to you all day. I'm very conscious of our time. My mind goes to the awards you've won and being the doctor that you are. There has to be some connection, or is there some connection to the journey that you've went through and how you're able to empathize and connect with patients?
I just remember what it was like being a patient. And I remember what it was like. The way I see it, I don't work for a hospital. I don't work for a government. I work for a human being in front of me. And the standard of that care is like how I'd want my mom to be cared for. And it's the people that I exist for. Yeah, and that journey where I've been a patient, it's definitely informed the way I look at them, and hopefully it makes a difference in the way I treat them. But it's the people that mean the most. And when I was a law student, when I was younger, I was always looking at how to fill my cup, how to take things. But I've come to realize that life and fulfillment and happiness comes from actually quite the opposite.
Yeah, filling other people's cup, lifting other people up. I totally get that. Look, from my perspective, in the short time that we've spent talking, I can already tell the signs of why you're so successful in what you do. And I'm really glad that you pushed on and you found the strength to overcome the challenges, because I know there's probably a lot that we didn't cover today to become not just the doctor you are, but the man that you've become today too. And I know that the work you do every day with people will be having a positive impact on the world. So I do want to take a moment and just thank you for that hard work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thanks for the impact that you're making on people in this world. And it's been so good to chat. Thanks for reaching out.
No, I do appreciate it. Before I let you go, what's the one piece of information, advice, based off your story that you could give to somebody else that might be going through a hard time at the moment?
The three biggest things for me has been figuring out the why. Why? Because as they say, he who has the why to live can bear almost anyhow. The why is critical. Yeah. So figure out the why. Perspective. On any given day, it is extremely unlikely that out of the 7 billion people on this planet, that we're the one having the worst day. The chances of that is minute. So there's always someone having a worse day, and we have to have a perspective about that. I think by virtue of even listening to this podcast, it means that you have access to the internet, you probably have access to a phone, and that puts you in someone like us, people on this.
Yeah.
And the third thing is gratitude. It's important to be grateful for the simple things, and I'm agnostic. I'm not religious, but whether we believe in God or universe or whatever it might be, I think, it's almost like a parent, right? Like you have to be grateful for the things that you're given, because otherwise how would you get more? And it's just good for your well-being.
No, I really like that. That's three very powerful sentiments to take away. Really quickly, talking of positive impacts, if you would really like to make a positive impact in other people's lives, you can do this by sharing the show right now on your feed. And again, thank you for being such a vital part of what we're trying to do here at Feck It No More. Let's get back to the episode. So it is. Dinesh, hopefully we can keep in touch. I'd love to have you on again to hear what you're doing more in the future. And hopefully you can become a friend of the show and keep in touch with us.
Oh, wait. Thanks, Glenn.
No worries. Listen, thank you so much, Dinesh. And now for the legal stuff. I am just some guy who has worked very hard on himself to get him from where he wasn't happy to a place where he is supremely happy, with the transformation of thinking he couldn't do everything to now believes that he can do anything. That was a long journey for me. Along that journey, I've spent 30 years of finding what's the best way to change our mindsets, to get us to a better place. I've completed a results coaching course, which enables me to coach others, which is something I've been doing for the last 5 years. And with my work with individuals, leaders and businesses, I get to see the challenges that people are facing every day. So if you're in need of some support and help, please seek professional advice or reach out to us at Feck It No More or SPC Success, and we'll certainly be able to point you in the right direction. Thanks for watching today's episode.